This is Gemara Nedarim Daf Ayin Dalid. Baruch Hashem, we're going to be able to get up this year before Shabbos. As usual, again, I apologize for all the late shiurim this past week. I thank everyone for their warm words of encouragement and refuah shalema. B'siyata d'shmaya, we're back and rolling better than ever. So today's shiur, as all the shiurim for the month of Teves, has been generously sponsored by a close friend of the Daf, as a schos ilin neshama of Aryeh ben Rav Yaakov. B'siyata d'shmaya, the learning of the entire Chabura, as we eye the end of Nedarim, should bring Rav Aryeh ben Rav Yaakov to a higher place in Gan Eden Shamayla, closer to the Kisei HaKavod, and ultimately be a Meilat Yosher to his entire Mishpacha. We're holding on the top of Ayin Daled Amud Aleph, a clean, fresh Mishnah to begin the day, and today in reality is going to be Yevamis. Today is going to be a reminder of those good old Yevamis days, Yevamis Daf Chav Tes Amud Beis, but don't get scared, none of the crazy cases coming up. Hopefully it should go nice and smooth. So says the Mishnah, Ayin Daled Amud Aleph, Shomeres Yavam, Bein Li Yavam Echad, Bein Lishnei Yavamim. Let's just remind yourself, a man dies leaving over his wife without any children. And what happens? He has a brother, or two brothers, let's call it. The brothers have the right to do Yibum. What is Yibum? Yibum is the ceremony, the process that the brother of the deceased has the ability to marry his ex-wife and thereby be making his name Biklal Yisrael. A tremendous mitzvah. If the brother does not choose to do such, then he does chalitza, or perhaps gives a get. In the interim time period between the death of the brother and the Yibum, we know that's a little bit of a quasi time period, we should call it. A quasi time period, we know, is a period in which there's a zika. There's some level of attachment between this Yivama, who's the ex-wife, who's the girl who's awaiting Yibum, and the brothers, the Yivamim. That's one rule, let's remind ourselves. Let's remind ourselves of another rule. There's something called the Maimer. Maimer is Kedushin Derabanan, in which one could do before Yibum. And then let's remind ourselves that if one does a get does not fully sever the process, but rather a get just assers the other brother, as we're going to see further. But again, for right now, the one detail that we must remind ourselves is that we have a woman whose husband just died, she has no children, and now her husband has one or multiple brothers, and they are awaiting to either do Yibam or Chalitza. So says the Mishnah, Shemeres Yavam, this woman that is waiting, being the Yavamecha, being the Shnei Yavamim, Rav Eliezer Omer Yafer. The awaiting Yavamim are allowed to be Mefer her Nedarim. Now we're going to have many opinions, but don't get nervous, because the Mishnah is going to quote the opinions, and then the Mishnah is going to explain them. Rav Yeshua Omer, one of the Yavamim can be made for the Nedarim, but not both. Rav Kiva Omer, Loy le'achad v'loy l'shnayim. None of them can be made for the Nedarim. So now we have three opinions. Rav Eliezer seemingly says they all could be made for. Rav Kiva on the opposite end of the spectrum says none of them could be made for. And Rav Yeshua in the middle says one of them can be made for. Three incredible opinions as to the din whether the Yishemeres Yavam, whether the Yavamim can be made for the Neder of the woman that they're awaiting Yibam to do. So explains the Gemara these three opinions. Rav Eliezer, Amar Rav Eliezer. 1 second, my mic just got stuck. There it is. Amar Rav Eliezer, fourth line. Ayin Daled Amud Aleph. My misha shekanu la'atzmai. Harei umei for Nedarim. Says Rav Eliezer, good old fashioned. Kal v'chaymer. A woman that you acquire by yourself, you can be made for the Nedarim. Isha shehiknu lai min hashamayim. A woman that God gave you. Didn't she offer Nedarel? Of course you can be made for Nedarim. Says Rav Eliezer, if you could be made for a neder of a acquisition of mere flesh and blood, of course you could be made for a neder of an acquisition of Shamayim. That's where Rav Eliezer holds, they both could be made for. Amar Rav Akiva loy, Rav Akiva, who's the opposite extreme, says no. What are you talking about? When you marry a woman, she's yours in exclusion to no one else in the world. Taimar be'isha. But we're here, you're trying to equate it to a woman, a Yavama. Sheikna min hashamayim, which what? Other people ever shus this woman. Which other people? The other Yavamim. So it says Rav Akiva, the mere fact that the other Yavamim have the ability to as well be made for the Nedarim, have the ability as well to marry her, blocks this kinyan min hashamayim. And Amrloi Rav Yeshua, this middle opinion, Akiva, Devarecha b'shnei yavamin. You're right, Rabbi Akiva, with 2 yavamim. Ma'ata meishav al yavam echad. And that's why Rabbi Yeshua holds that 1 yavam does work, but not 2. Amar loi. Now Rabbi Akiva says, why even 1? Eina yavama gemura liyabeim kishem sha'asura gemura arusa gemura liisha. Says Rabbi Akiva, the equation does not add up. And arusa is fully acquired to his wife, whereas a yavama is not fully acquired to his wife. So again, Rav Eliezer is the most extreme to the positive. Any of the yavamim could be mefer. Rav Akiva, most extreme to the negative. And Rav Yeshua, floating in the middle, 1 and not 2. So says the Gemara, and this is really just going to be some math, trying to keep in track all these different opinions. So again, Rav Eliezer on one side, Rav Akiva on the opposite side, Rav Yeshua in the middle. Says the Gemara. Again, Rav Eliezer on one side, Rav Akiva on the opposite side of negative, and Rav Yeshua in the middle. Bishlama Rav Akiva that says none could do it. Savar ain't Zika. Rav Akiva clearly holds there's no Zika. There's no connection. Even this woman that's awaiting this Yibam, there's no real halachic connection between her and the Yavama. And that's the reason why there's no Afaris Nedarim. Rav Yeshua Savar, Rav Yeshua in the middle holds Yesh Zika. There is a connection. That's why Rav Yeshua says if it's 1, it will work. If it's 2, then the fact that there's another one will block it. Ela Rav Elazar asked the Gemara, my taima. What's Rav Elazar's reasoning? Yesh Zika, then ain't Breira. Why does Rav Elazar seemingly allow both of the Yavamim to be made for the Nedarim? If there is this concept of Zika, if there is this connection to the Yavamim, but then ain't Breira. We don't know halachically which one is going to be the one that's actually going to perform Yibam. So Amar Ravami. So teretz number 1 of the day is Ravami. Ravami is coming to answer Rav Eliezer. Keep that in mind because we're going to have a second teretz in a few moments. Amar Ravami. Says Ravami, really Rav Eliezer only meant, when Rav Eliezer in the Mishnah said Yafer, Rav Eliezer only meant really that one of them could be Mefer. Which one? The one that does Maimer. As we explained, Maimer is Kedushin Derabanan. Maimer is some form of Erusin for excuse me, a Yavama. So says Rav Ami, Rav Eliezer's case is only if they did Maimer. Rav Eliezer Savar Law Kibei Shamai, and explains the Gemara. And how does this work? How does Rav Ami's teretz work that they did Maimer? The Rav Eliezer holds like Kibei Shamai Damer Maimer Koinen Ginin Gomer. Hopefully, a lot of these concepts are ringing bells to different things that we spoke about extensively when we learned Yavamis. Says the Gemara, Rav Eliezer holds like Beis Shammai, explains Rav Ami that what? Maimer is a full-fledged kinyan, Yesh Zika, Yesh Maimer, so whichever one did Maimer, he can be made for the Nedarim. For Rav Yeshua, Aimer Lecha, so why does Rav Yeshua disagree? Explains the Gemara. Hani Mili B'chad Yavam, says Rav Yeshua, it's only by 1. Aval B'shnei Yavamim, Loi. Mika Midi. Now, the difficulty over here is we're going to speak out, and the Mefarshim here deal with this point. I just explained that Rav Eliezer, when he says Yafer, is only talking about 1. Now, Rav Yeshua seemingly is asking that question. So the basic understanding is that Rav Eliezer is talking about even a case with 2 Yivamin, but 1 did Maimer. Rav Yeshua holds that as soon as there's a second brother potential, even if 1 did Maimer, it's not going to work. Now let's see the Gemara develop itself. Says Rav Yeshua, Hani Mili B'chad Yavam. That only works when there's 1 Yavam. Aval B'shnei Yavamim, when there's another potential brother, Loi. Why? Mika Midi. Is there a possibility? Is it possible? Let's say Ruvain does Maimer. So Ruvain, according to Rav Eliezer, has the sole power to be made for the Nedarim. And then Shimon, the other brother, illegally, he's not allowed to do this, but if he does it, it works, illegally comes along and either sleeps or gives a get to the Yavama. The halacha is, if he does that, it asers up Ruvain. So says Rav Yeshua, is it possible that Ruvain is going to be made for the Nedarim, and the other brother can make it aser or mefer? And that's why Rav Yeshua says, once there is another brother on the table, the mere second brother being there blocks the ability to be made for the Nedarim. Rav Akiva Savar. Now the Gemara just follows up. The wise Rav Akiva, none of them could do it. Again, Ein Zika. Rav Akiva holds Ein Zika. So that's the teretz of Rav Ami, how he explains Rav Eliezer, that what? He'll take Beis Shammai. Maimer is a full-fledged kinyan, and therefore you could be made for the Nedarim, the one that did Maimer. Rav Yeshua disagrees once there's two Yavamim. Rav Akiva says no, never can you be made for the Nedarim. Now over here we have to change the gears from Rav Eliezer to Rav Elazar, because this is an Amayra who's arguing on Rav Ami. Rav Elazar Damar Maimer leBeis Shammai ein koinel ilchos b'tzara. We just quoted a moment ago that Rav Ami said that Rav Eliezer is going with Beis Shammai. That said what? Maimer is a full-fledged kinyan. Rav Elazar argues on the math. And Rav Elazar says, according to Beis Shammai, it's not a full-fledged kinyan, but rather it's only a kinyan to be lidchais b'tzara, to push away litzara. So says the Gemara, Rav Elazar, to Amar, Maimer leBeis Shammai, ein koinel lidchais b'tzara. Ma'ikal amimar. What does he explain? Answers the Gemara, Hacham hayaskini gon sha'amad bedin, and a kimta that the Mishnah is going to have to be talking about a case where there was Amadus Bedin. They went to Bezdin. She says, this is ridiculous, I'm waiting to get married. And Bezdin was Machayiv the Mezainis. And therefore, what? Quoting from yesterday's Gemara, and therefore that's the reason why Rav Eliezer holds she could be made for the Nedarim. Why? Because once Bezdin obligates the Yavam to give her Mezainis, hand in hand with Mezainis goes what? Hand in hand with Mezainis goes Hafaras Nedarim, says Rav Eliezer. Two different ways of explaining the opinion of Rav Eliezer in the Mishnah. We turn over to Ayin Daled Amud Beis, and says the Gemara, Tanan, the Gemara now asks on Rav Ami. I shouldn't say really two different ways of explaining Rav Eliezer, two different ways of explaining within Rav Ami. The Rav Eliezer is going with Beis Shammai. Either it's Beis Shammai old Maimer is Kohen Kin Gomer, or even Maimer is not Kohen Kin Gomer. There's an akimta to make it work. Says the Gemara, Tanan, we have a Mishnah. The Mishnah says, Amar Rav Eliezer, this is our Mishnah. What were the words of Rav Eliezer when he said that you can be made for the Nedarim? He explained that a regular wife that you have a kinyan of mere flesh and blood, and yeah, you can be made for the Nedarim. Isha, shehiknu alayim min hashamayim, a yavam that Hashem gave you the wife, eino din shemei for Nedarim. So that was why Rav Eliezer in the Mishnah said it worked. So ask the Gemara on Rav Ami, v'ibish asaba maimer. But if you, Rav Ami, are saying that the only way to learn the Mishnah and Rav Eliezer is that they did maimer, they did this kedushin derabanan, kana la'atzmayu shekana. Ask the Gemara, kana la'atzmayu, excuse me. This is a kinyan on his own. The whole impetus of Rav Eliezer and the wording of the Mishnah was that it's a kinyan min hashamayim. It's a heavenly acquisition to give the Yivama. But says the Gemara, it's not true. It's really maimer, according to Rav Ami, which is a physical kinyan. Answers the Gemara, shekana la'atzmai di shamayim, that you know what it meant. It meant that you effect the acquisition via shamayim. It's a hybrid. That's how we could shtup it in to make the wording in the Mishnah make sense. And therefore, the Gemara keeps along the teretz of Rav Ami to explain Rav Eliezer. Continues the Gemara, based on what we just said, based on the way, that Rav Ami explained to Rav Eliezer that the din in the Mishnah, that the Yavam can be made for the Nedarim, it's talking about Maimer, it's talking about Beis Shammai, it's talking about Kinyan Gomer. Tivsha debayi Rabbah. Based on all those details, let's answer up a shayla that Rabbah posed in Yevamas. Maimer leBeis Shammai irisin oiseh oy nisuin oiseh. What does Maimer do? Does Maimer do irisin or nisuin? So says the Gemara, according to the way that we just learned, Tivsha din nisuin oiseh. Let's explain that it obviously does nisuin. Why? The irisin oiseh, because if it just did irisin, Hatanan. We learned way back when, in the beginning of this parak, Nair Amurasa, if you only did Eirisin, then Avia Ubayla Mefir Nedarel. Then they both are made for the Nedarim in tandem. And if our Mishnah is learning that the Yavam can be made for the Nedarim by himself in the case of Maimer, must be Maimer as the status of Nisuin. Answers the Gemara, no Raya, don't bring a Raya from our Sugya to Rabbah. Amar Amnacham Bar Yitzchak, my Yafer B'Shutvis. It's true. What our Mishnah means is that it's Yafer B'Shutvis. What our Mishnah means is that he's mefer together with the father, therefore there's no raya to Rabbah. Even though it seems that we're only halfway down this Amud. The Gemara now is going to begin a long and lengthy raya. Tanya nami hachi kiravami. The Gemara now is going to bring a long and lengthy raya to Ravami. This raya is going to be a massive brisa. The brisa is going to go all the way to the top of Ayin Heyam and Aleph, and then the Gemara is first going to articulate the raya right before the Mishnah. Based on the fact that the next Amud, next daf, is a short daf, We're going to call it a day right over here, call it a Shabbos, I should say. B'siyata d'shmaya and Sunday's daf, we'll pick it up from this raya. Have a fabulous Shabbos.